Hello, I'm Saar. I'm from the Electrical and Computer Engineering faculty at the Technion in Haifa, Israel. This was a joint work with Omer Fireaizen and Omer Bobrowski, and the work deals with alarm sound detection using topological signal processing. So alarms are meant to alert from danger, to save lives, and we do care to know when an alarm sound is present in the background. However, alarms are mathematically ill-defined and have various spectral patterns. Here we have an example of 3 different alarm sounds: a police siren, an ambulance, and an alarm clock, and there are 3 spectrograms, which is just their frequency decomposition over time. As you can see, those 3 spectrograms are quite different from one another, and at first glance, it would be very hard to realize that those 3 spectrograms belong to the same class of signals. However, alarms do share similar qualitative characteristics, which was our motivation to use the field of topology. So topology is a fundamental area in mathematics. It dates back to Euler, and it deals with qualitative properties of shapes that are preserved under continuous deformations. Our main goal was to use the topology of signals to detect alarm sounds. I'll explain here briefly our analysis pipeline. It will be explained more profoundly later on. First, we are taking a sampled signal and turning it into a point cloud. On that point cloud, we want to build a shape and analyze its cycles. Then we'll summarize this information in a persistent diagram and extract our topological features from that diagram. So how do we turn a signal into a point cloud? We do so by the sliding window embedding transformation. This transformation takes a set of samples from the signal and turns them into a coordinates of a point in our point cloud. Here in the example below, we are taking 3 adjacent samples each time and turning them into an XYZ coordinates of a point in our point cloud. We can run over the entire signal and create its point cloud. So a bit of motivation before we'll continue. We have here 2 similar looking signals, their amplitude over time. And when we compute their discrete Fourier transform, we also receive similar results. However, when we compute their sliding window embedding transformation, we receive 2 different shapes with different topological properties. And indeed, the left signal here, is a periodic signal, and the right signal here is a quasi-periodic signal, meaning it's almost periodic. This was the motivation for some earlier studies that you can see here below, where topology was used to detect periodic patterns in signals. So now that we have our point cloud, we want to build a shape on it, since the topology of a point cloud is not very interesting. We'll do so by first dividing space using the Voronoi diagram to Voronoi cells. Each cell around the point in our point cloud will contain the entire points, set of points in that space that is closest to this point from the point cloud than any other point. Then we'll place a ball of radius r around each point in our point cloud, of course limited to the cell size, and we will look at the intersection of those balls. If 2 balls have an intersection, we'll connect those 2 matching points by an edge, a first order simplex. If 3 balls have an intersection, we'll connect those 3 matching points by a triangle, a second order simplex, and so on. And we'll create some sort of a generalization of a regular graph called the simplicial complex. More specifically, simplicial complex created in that manner is called an alpha complex. And as you can see, it have regular cycles like a graph. It can also, it is also possible to have higher order cycles. But what do we care so much about cycles? So cycles contains significant information about the topology of the shape, and it may also help us to distinguish between shapes with different topologies. So the study of cycles in topology is called an homology, and let's look at an example. So 0th order cycles are just the connected components of the shape. Here we have a torus. It has 1 connected component since the entire shape is glued together. So 1 0th order cycle. First order cycles are just loops around holes. As you can see, we have here this red loop around this main hole and this blue loop around this hole. The shape here, of course, is hollow. So we have 2 first order cycles. Now we can create many more other loops, but they can be continuously deformed either to the red loop or to the blue loop. So we won't consider them different cycles. Second order cycles are some sort of air pockets that are trapped inside the shape. And we have here only 1 such air pocket, so 1 second order cycle. And we can also talk in a more rigorous mathematical way about K cycles as well. So as you recall, in creating our alpha complex, we chose a specific value for the radius of the balls, but we don't want to pick a specific value. We want to continuously increase it from 0 and watch how the alpha complex evolves, how its cycles evolve over this process. And let's look at an example. While we will increase it from 0, at some point an edges will start to appear. Later on, maybe higher order simplexes as well. A cycle might form and it will get filled in after some while. Another cycle may form, it will also get filled in until the entire shape is fully connected. And we can summarize the information of this process in a persistent diagram. Here the x-axis represents a birth time, the radius a cycle appeared, and the y-axis represents a death time, the radius it got filled in, and each point here represents a cycle. Red points represent zero-order cycles, connected components, and blue points represent first-order cycles, loops around holes. We have here two signals, an AM signal, which corresponds to a point cloud of a torus. And as you recall, torus have one connected component, two first-order cycles, and one second-order cycle. We also have a chirp, which corresponds to this point cloud that has one connected component and two second-order cycles. So now that we have our persistent diagram, we want to extract our features from it, and it can be done in many ways. We can simply take the length of some cycle. We can take the length of the ith longest k cycle. We can also look for specific patterns in the signal, like a periodicity C, how close it's a point cloud to a closed loop. We can also look at how close it's point cloud to a torus, a quasi-periodicity score. Similarly, how close it's point cloud to a point cloud of a chirp, a frequency shift score. We can also think of the top longest 5 cycles of kth order. We can also take statistics like means or variance of some cycles, and many other options are also available. So let's summarize this entire pipeline. We started with a sampled signal, turn it into a point cloud using a sliding window embedding transformation. Then we used a dimensionality reduction algorithm due to computational reasons. We used the UMAP algorithm to preserve the topology as much as we can. Then we computed the alpha complex, again, while continuously increasing the radius of the balls, and analyzed the evolution of the cycles and summarized it in a persistent diagram. From that diagram, we extracted our topological features. The dataset that we have used is Urban Sound 8K. It contains around 9,000 sound signals from a city, most of which are between 2 to 4 seconds. It has 10 different classes, about 1,000 alarm sounds and 8,000 other sounds. Since we have many more other sounds than alarms, we've used the balanced training method in our process. Now, before inserting our entire set of features to a classifier, we wanted to test how well each feature performs. And we did so by a feature ranking algorithm called the Relieff, which is a variation of the Relieff algorithm. That algorithm associates a weight with each feature based on how well it spreads samples between different classes and how short are the distances between samples from the same class. Here we have our topological features. We also have our full diagram. Since we can define a metric between diagrams, a distance between persistent diagrams, we can insert them as a feature to the Relieff algorithm. And as you can see, it received a very high weight. And we also had our classical signal processing features, most of which are based on the spectrograms, but some of them, like the zero crossing rate, are based on the signal itself. Now, our classifier was AdaBoost. We used the AdaBoost algorithm. AdaBoost algorithm takes many classifiers and does some sort of a weighted majority vote between them to determine the class of each sample. Our classifiers were small decision trees with randomly selected features from our set of features with a probability proportional to the Relieff score, meaning that a feature that had bigger weight was more probable to be selected as a feature to a decision tree. Now, most of the results on Urban Sound 8K in recent years use the deep learning method. They've used the convolutional neural networks based on the spectrogram. The spectrogram was the input. And as you can see, in 2018, Zhang accomplished 96.5% accuracy. Garg at 2020 accomplished 96.7% accuracy. Lee at 2021 accomplished 98.7% accuracy. And we have accomplished with a classical method, no deep learning method, using the power of our topological features, 98.8% accuracy. We also did an ablation study where we took only the DSP features. We achieved a 71% accuracy. When we used only our topological features, we received 94.6% accuracy. When we ignored the high order topological features, we received 98.1% accuracy. And when we've used all of our features, we achieved, of course, 98.8% accuracy. So to summarize, we extracted topological features from sound signals and used them along with the classical signal processing features to detect better, to have a better detection of alarm sounds. We achieved the state-of-the-art results, and we presented the power of the topological features, also using an ablation study and a feature ranking algorithm, Relieff. The pipeline that we presented here is very generic. It can be used in many other applications and as a part of maybe a bigger process. And thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it and enjoy the rest of the conference.